live in 2 minutes. Lynn Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hello there, and welcome to a beautiful April 13th here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I don't know about where you're at, but it is here. Going to be a busy day in the city. My God, I fought my way through a huge crowd of union guys on the corner. Communication Workers of America on strike against Verizon. And wow, what a big presence they have out there on the corner. And what's so funny is, so when someone drives by who's a union supporter, you know, they honk their horns and then all hell breaks loose. And while I was negotiating the area, a huge cement truck came by and laid on his very loud horn, you know, the horn of a big cement truck. It was rattling windows up at UPMC. It was, and he never got off it. He stayed on it through a red light, and I mean, I'm sure there are a million people in the buildings around here who were saying, "What? What?" But the strikers loved it. So that was the first union I ever belonged to, Communication Workers. They organized the reporters at the first television station I ever worked at in Madison, Wisconsin, and I became the steward. And then got myself elected to the Madison, Wisconsin Labor Council, where I was one of the few women, and just totally out of place. These were all industrial unions, not all, but mostly. And but that was my first step into understanding what a union was about and appreciating what a union was about. I have maybe now a more nuanced view. I mean, I see pluses, I see minuses, but the pluses so far outweigh the minuses, and we see what happens to America's workers when unions are demonized and fall out of favor. Workers get screwed. It's as simple as that. Workers get screwed. The only times workers haven't been screwed is when unions are strong. Simple as that. You wonder why some people don't understand. You know, like all these anti-union people don't understand that their assumptions and expectations about vacations or hours worked or safety on the job or all overtime pay, that all of that did not exist until union members struck and fought and risked their jobs, their income, their homes, their lives for that progress. Just some people I don't have a clue. Don't have a clue. Well, as I said, it's a busy day, so we got the big CWA presence outside here. There will be more presences and groupings of humans throughout the day. A number of anti-Trump rallies scheduled. One on the Roberto Clemente Bridge if you're heading over to the Pirate game later tonight. One in Oakland near the taping of the Sean Hannity show with Donald Trump. There's some group of gun nuts who are going to be walking around with their guns. I think that's in Oakland. Not sure. Open carry. So we got the gun nuts, and we got it's a quite a crazy place today. And then of course you got the Stanley Cup. So the playoffs. I mean, we don't got the Stanley Cup, not yet. We're a far piece away from getting our hands on that Stanley Cup again. But anyway, we start on the way. So busy day, and if you don't have to be out at any of it, don't. Be my advice to you. Chelsea Clinton right now is over in Sliberty. Ted Cruz's dad was in Grove City the other day. What a crazy person he is. You know, he sired, as we know, the most hated member of the U.S. Congress. That's not an easy thing to do when you think of the makeup of the U.S. Congress. There's a lot of people there who are loathsome, I think. And he sired the most loathsome of all. It's not I'm not even going out on a limb in saying that because the members of the Congress would agree with that assessment. And this loathsome thing that he sired is, as we know, getting uncomfortably close to being one step away from the presidency of the United States. So listen to the kind of verbiage his father, who, by the way, is a minister, a supposed man of God. I don't know what God he's worshiping, but I don't want to have anything to do with him because he's a scary, scary God, if this is what he begets. So Ted Cruz's daddy was telling his audience that, quote, if we lose this battle, America will be destroyed. I mean, stop and think about that statement. The absurdity of it, the hubris of it, the sense that if we don't vote, if his loathsome son does not become the president of the United States, America will be destroyed. He sounds like some Old Testament prophet, saying, and God will strike us down. That's exactly what he sounds like. So if we don't elect your stupid son, America will be destroyed. Good God. He goes on, however. Many Christians have said, politics is a dirty business. I don't want any part of it. But if the righteous are not running for office, if the righteous are not even voting, what is left? The wicked. Electing the wicked. That's us. Ted Cruz's dad thinks we're wicked. That's okay. I'll take your wicked and I'll give you loathsome. How's that? This is America political discourse now. God, what kind of Christianity is this? And speaking of Ted Cruz, oh God! So Ted worked before he was elected to the Congress. He worked as a assistant attorney general, I believe, or deputy attorney general, whatever the proper verbiage is, in the great state of Texas. And at the time, the attorney general who he was working under was a guy named Greg Abbott. Greg Abbott has now risen to the position of governor of the state of Texas. And he is exceedingly conservative. Ted, as we know, is exceedingly conservative. And the two of them worked together back in the day, in the earlier part of this century, going to court to uphold the values of the great state of Texas. And in that guise, Ted Cruz argued a case that would make the sale of dildos illegal. And here is one of the, let me read you a little bit from their brief. I'm going to find it. Here it is. Cruz in the brief said, "There is no substantive due process right to stimulate one's genitals for I'm not done. There is no right to stimulate your genitals, okay? This is from Cruz. Stimulate one's genitals for non-medical purposes. What would be a medical purpose? Hysteria? No, semen. I suppose if you wanted to. Yeah, we'll give you this issue of Playboy. You go in there and jerk off, and then we'll see if we can make a baby. Okay. That might, I don't know what else. Why, has any doctor ever told you, I want you to masturbate 10 times a day? Anyway, he says, there is no right to stimulate one's genitals for non-medical purposes unrelated to procreation or outside of an interpersonal relationship. In other words, he was arguing the state of Texas, for the state of Texas, that Americans do not have the right to masturbate. Oh, dear. Went on to say there is no right to promote dildos, vibrators, and other obscene devices. I could regale you with more, but I'll cease and desist. He lost the case. He lost the case. Okay. Oh, here's a somebody sent me what the workers that I had to elbow my way through to get into the studio today are striking about. The members will rally for a fair contract outside the Verizon building beginning at 7. So they've been there since 7. From Massachusetts to Virginia, 39,000. Wow, that's how many are striking. Wow, 39,000 Verizon workers, represented by the CWA, communication workers, and the IBW, will be on strike as of 6 a.m., so they just walked out. Yeah, they look like they just walked out, the look of, and then as the weeks and months go on, the crowds thin, and it's tough. They're heading into a tough slog, no doubt about it. Says despite enormous profits, Verizon continues its demands to cut good jobs, health care, and family standard of living. Workers have negotiated in good faith for 10 months. They want Verizon to come back to the bargaining table and negotiate in good faith. Lots of luck with that. Anyone who is a worker now, knows how appalling the landscape is, and how totally I ain't that old, am I? But I guess I am. How when I started work, there was an understanding. It wasn't even talked about between an employer and an employee that you needed each other. Yes, okay. Hello.
Hi, Lynn.
Hey.
That's my son's in that group.
Is he?
Yep.
Well, I hope he's not the idiot wearing shorts.
No.
Good.
But you always hear me when I talk. I'm pro-union.
Yeah.
But in this case here, I say, with the outsourcing and them eliminating jobs, you better just take what you can get and get back to work.
God, see how they've defeated us.
I
you
know,
really
but
think
you
there's
no
no
choice.
even... Okay, so you don't think the American workers, have any bargaining
Not anymore, no.
influence at all?
No.
None. We have no...
No. The government doesn't back us on anything. They don't make the laws. They let them outsource the work, and that's what they'll do. It's a union busting thing, I think. Eventually, they want to get rid of the union.
Well, sure.
That's what I see.
Well, of course. Well, I wish them luck.
I do too. But
yeah. Well, keep your fingers crossed.
Yeah.
You have reason for concern, I'm sure.
Last time they did it was 2 weeks, so maybe it'll only be short.
Did they win anything last time?
Not really.
Nothing? They just gave up after 2 weeks and went back? Really?
They might have got a little bit. I can't remember.
Whatever.
Yeah,
okay, well, I wish them luck.
Yeah, me too.
Look like a bunch of nice people out there.
Well, that's good.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Damn. Okay, so this scary scenario I had talked about yesterday of Trump and Cruz just, being the front runners for a purpose of making the convention almost in a unanimous way turn to anybody but those two and I threw out the name Paul Ryan. And so you know that yesterday Ryan held a news conference in which he said, "Let me be clear. I do not want, nor will I accept." Man, he was sounded just like LBJ. But he was already the president. Jeez. "Let me be clear. I do not want, nor will I accept the nomination of our party." Yeah, but see, here's what's funny about all of this. Ryan, not too long ago, it's not like you need a long memory to remember that when Boehner took leave, there was this, "Come on, we want you to be the," and he said, "I don't want to be the speaker. That's not what I'm into. I don't want to run it. I want to do these wonky things I'm into doing, and I don't want to be the damn speaker. I don't want to herd cats, and I refuse. I won't. He went back to Wisconsin and, spend time with his family, so I won't be taken from my family. I won't this, that. Well, guess who's the speaker? He is. So, when I heard him say, "And I will not," here's my guess. It's still a possibility that Paul Ryan will be the nominee, but he doesn't want it because this ain't a good year. He's thinking, why do I want to? I've already done a national campaign as a vice presidential candidate and got my clock cleaned. I ain't going to do that again until I know I've got a chance. And I'm young, and I'm one of the few sober voices left in the party. I'll wait this out. I'll wait my turn, but I'm there in 4 years or I'm there in 8 years, right? He doesn't want it now. There'll be too many pissed off. If he were given the nomination, there'd be too many pissed off Republicans who wouldn't vote. All those Trump supporters, a lot of Cruz support. So he doesn't want it. So he's no dummy. I'll tell you that. No dummy. And he clearly wants to be the president of the United States at a point of his choosing. He's racking up a hell of a resume. Yeah. And he's articulate. You might not. He's a grown up. He's all those things that none of these other guys seem to be. So, he wants to wait. He does not want to be dragged into this mud hole. And who can blame him? Hey, just see those great signs that this shrink in Fox Chapel put out? If you didn't, I'll read some to you. He had political signs made. They're all red, white, and blue, and they're big. He's got 4 of them, I guess. His name is Eric Ricken. He's a Democrat. But he's putting up signs that say, I love these, Trump likes Hunt's ketchup. That's cute. That's smart. No Pittsburgher would vote for anybody who likes Hunt's ketchup. And in the same vein, Trump hates pierogies. And here's a third. And these are big. They're all really good-looking signs. Trump moved my parking chair. Now, there are places in which that doesn't translate at all. Like, what? Your what? Your what? So, cute. I'm glad some people are able to still have fun with the horrors of this campaign season. Hey, obituary of the day. Got to do this. David Gest. I didn't remember the name, but there was a picture of him here, and I sure remembered him. He's dead. He's only 62, which surprised me as well. David Gest is known to most of us as the erstwhile husband of Liza Minnelli. I think he was her 4th. And it was not a union of long duration. For one thing, everybody knew David Gest was gay. I think everybody but Liza Minnelli. I'm not sure. Maybe she did know too. I don't know. He was a award show producer. He produced a lot of the Jacksons, Michael Jackson shows and stuff like that. So, I mean, he was a legitimate producer in that regard. Anyway, he became Liza's 4th husband in 2002. Elizabeth Taylor was the maid of honor. I don't think she would have to be the matron of honor since she had been married about 9 times by that point, I believe. That would be the matron of honor, Elizabeth Taylor. And Michael Jackson was the best man. And also, in case you needed any other luminaries in the wedding party, the guests included Michael Douglas, Kirk Douglas, Elton John, Anthony Hopkins, Andrew Lloyd Webber, and Donald J. Trump, of course. So no sooner did these two lovebirds tie the knot than they immediately signed a contract for a television series called Liza and David. You know what's funny is I don't remember. So was that 2002? Were we doing those kinds of reality shows in 2002? So they were in at the beginning. Okay, because they were not as ubiquitous that's 14 years ago. So a television series was planned, Liza and David, but it only got as far as one episode because Liza and David were at each other's throats. They were at each other's throats. They did not in any way, shape, or form get along. They managed to hang in there as a couple for 16 months, but he famously sued Liza while they were still married for $10 million, accusing her of beating him up on numerous occasions. And if you look at the two of them, she could take him. I mean, I can understand. He's definitely the sort of, he looks like, of the two, you'd put your money on her. He said, in alcohol-induced rages, she beat him so badly that he suffered virtually unrelenting pain. She countersued, alleging God knows what, that he'd stolen money and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, the two lovebirds finally managed to sever their union in 2007. I mean, it took like the marriage was gone for 4 years, and finally they finalized it. And he went to England and became essentially he became a celebrity, B-list, C-list, D-list celebrity doing reality shows. What a life. And he had to fill out a form for doing one of the shows, which was I'm a celebrity, get me out of here. And he filled out, it was for an insurance form. He filled out for the producers. He listed they had to have, what are your current medical difficulties and or ailments? And here is what David Gest wrote down. He said he had vertigo, hypertension, scalp tenderness, insomnia, dysphoria, which is a feeling of like just uneasiness. Also, photosensitivity, recurrent vomiting, anorexia, and shingles. He also claimed to suffer from chronic phonophobia. Have any idea what that is? This is great. Phonophobia, the fear of your own voice. What do you mean? The fear of the sound of your own voice. I might have a little of that myself. Anyway, despite all that, amazingly, he did the show and hung in there, but now he's dead. He's 62. Was 62. There you have it. David Gest and Liza Minnelli. Ah, yes. I mean, you think a wedding. Okay, so there's the foursome at the wedding party. Elizabeth Taylor, Michael Jackson, this guy, and Liza Minnelli. I mean, you can't have four more people who are less likely to be taking whatever vows they are taking seriously, right? So, I got to tell you about a book. I haven't read it myself. I've read a review. And this book sounds fascinating. And I think some of you, more than me, more than I, would probably really get into the book because I think you can't have the allergy or the phobia of numbers and mathematics that I possess. And I would think lose yourself in this book. But it's called Fluke. Now, fluke is, how would you define fluke? A fluke, a one-off, a kind of a fluke, an unintended thing. Isn't a fluke? No. Flume? What is the blowhole on a whale called? Or something on a whale is a fluke? Yeah, a fluke. There is a fluke. Yeah, is that their flippers? Yeah. That's a fluke too. Pretty sure. Okay, but I don't think. Okay, I all of a sudden realized, there's other definitions of fluke. But the name of the book is Fluke. And I'll just tell you one story that shows what the book is about. And this is a true story. It's been documented. Takes place some time ago, 1929. And an American woman who also wrote children's books was in Paris with her husband. And she was browsing through these used book stalls that were along the Seine in Paris on a sunny day. And she sees a book that she knew from her childhood, Jack Frost and Other Stories. And she thought, oh my God, oh, how adorable is this book. I remember this book. I love this book. She bought it for a franc. And she hurried to meet up with her husband at lunch at a cafe. There she found her husband sipping on a glass of wine, and she says to him, look what I found. This was one of my favorite books when I was a kid. I can't believe I found it. And she handed it to him. He sort of thumbed through it. And after a little while, he handed it back to her. And he handed it back to her open to the flyleaf. Is it the first page or the second page? That's the second page. With the title on it or something. Title page. Handed it back to her, and there, and she hadn't noticed this, in a child's handwriting, it said, it was written, Ann Parrish, 209 North Weber Street, Colorado Springs, Colorado. It was her book. It was her childhood book. Whoa, what are the chances? Well, what is interesting about this book is this guy maintains that the chances weren't all that outrageous. The odds weren't all that long. That the things we often think of as unbelievable, magical coincidences are really not all that surprising. In the book, they actually work out the odds. What are the odds that the book you loved as a child in Colorado Springs you would find, not looking for it, but you would find and buy in Paris, France, decades later? Your own book. He figured the odds were 3,331 to 1. And I got to tell you, those odds aren't like that. That's not like hitting the lottery odds. Those are the same kind of odds of being dealt a poker hand of 4 of a kind. So it's out there, but it's not that surprising. It's pretty amazing. But it's not like... Okay, then you have to... So the whole point of this book is, even though we live in this chaotic world of 7 billion human beings all over the place, living their 7 billion messy lives, constantly making hundreds of little decisions every day that will send us off this way or that way or the other way, creating all kinds of unimagined coincidences and unexpected outcomes. The guy who writes this book argues that, in fact, if you look closely enough, you can draw lines of causation between almost any act and a resulting act. He's basing this on, here's where it gets mathematical, where I'm not going to be able to understand this, but some of you guys with better heads can. He uses the work of a guy named Jacob Bernoulli, who he's one of the founders of probability theory. And he formulated what is called, quote, the weak law of large numbers. And that was more than 3 centuries ago, folks. The weak law of large numbers. And according to this guy, this genius, if a test is repeated a sufficient number of times and the results over all of those repetitions will converge on an expected value. You see, right there, I'm lost. Although they talk about it as flipping a coin. And I didn't even get that part. So the author says that if you break up complex events into a sequence of simpler events, then each of the components is, in fact, repeated many times. For example, take that Anne Parrish. Take the woman who found the book, her own book. She was part of a social circle of wealthy Americans of that era. That narrows the world down a great deal. Why would she be in Paris in the summer of 29? Well, if just 10 out of 100 of the people in her set went to Paris in the summer of 29, I don't understand. I don't understand this. But how did the book end up there? Well, it turns out her mom, was friends with Mary Cassatt, the painter, who I believe came from Pittsburgh. North Side? Her mom was a friend of Mary Cassatt, who spent most of her life in Paris. Cassatt died in 1926, 3 years before the book and its owner are reunited. And when she died, her estate was dispersed. Obviously, she had ended up somehow with her friend's daughter's book. This is what they're assuming. And then when she died, the book goes off to a used a book place. So it was just waiting there for Anne Parrish to find it. So, he figured out what are the odds that she would be in Paris. What were the odds that she would browse the book stand? What were the odds that the book would be there? What are the odds that all three would take place? And he did the math and came up with this 3,331 to 1. So that often things that you just can't. There's other stories in here that are sort of amazing. The actor Anthony Hopkins. Gee, he's been mentioned twice now in this show. I mentioned him at the wedding. Okay, so the author Anthony Hopkins was working on a film in London called The Girl from Petrovka. While working on the film, he sees a book lying on a bench in the London Underground. He picks it up. It is the book on which the film he is making is based. And it's not just that. It's the very copy that belonged to the author and was marked in the author's hand. I mean, that'd be pretty neat. You're working on a film. You see a book. You pick it up, and oh my God, this is the same. So it's all this stuff. What are the odds that your taxi driver is the very one who picked you up years before and thousands of miles away? That happens. What are the chances of winning the lottery not once but 4 times? Because it's been done. And you know who it was done by? A retired math professor. So, I don't know. So if you're interested, but one of the reasons this guy is writing this book is he's a person who's not particularly comfortable with the chaos of the world and is trying to prove that it's not as chaotic as it appears. He implies that these things make some sense. I don't know. The guy who writes the book is a mathematician. And his stories in the book are about the fact that these kinds of occurrences are actually evidence of a rational order of the universe. I don't know. I mean, we've all had these experiences. You're a million miles from... I mean, I get it all the time. I had somebody come up to me. Can't even remember where the hell I was, but I wasn't in this country. Somewhere in Europe. And say, Lynn Cullen. You know, and well, fine. That's happened more than once where I've been recognized in another country. Lynn Cullen. I can't believe I bumped into you. I was just watching. She was watching television in her hotel room. And I came up on the screen. This was in Europe. I said, what? How could I come up? She said it was some silly little thing. It was on one of those shows about bloopers. And there you were, and you were doing, you know, you had a microphone in your hand, and then the door slammed, the elevator door shut as she said it was funny. I said, oh my God. I remember the clip. I was a reporter at WTAE here. That clip was sold to the BBC. Do you know, up until about 10 years ago, I was still getting royalty checks every time that stupid thing ran? How the hell would I know it was running in Botswana? Because I got one from, it was in Africa, here, there, and they would, oh, yeah, we got to send this woman in Pittsburgh a little money. But it was something like, I was in, let's say, Italy. I don't know, and this woman... Lynn Cullen, oh my God! I just turned on the TV here in my, Italian TV, and there, you were there, and I said, oh my God, look, there's Lynn Cullen. And then I come here, and there you are. So she had one of those experiences. Hers was more amazing than mine, because she had seen me in 2 unlikely places in a very short period of time. I remember a woman stopping me at a restaurant here. "Oh, I have to tell you this. My husband and I were just in the south of France, and we were sitting on the beach, the Riviera, and we struck up a conversation with the loveliest couple. And they asked where we were from, and we said Pittsburgh, and and that's how these things happen. And it turns out they were talking to the brother of my former husband. Small world. And then we say small world. Small world. But you've got these stories too. I might have a few more by virtue of having my mug and my voice out there in perpetuity. But it's always amazing when they do happen. And I like to think, I don't want to think that they're part of some, well, who cares? Anyway, Fluke is the book if you're interested in such things. Okay. I have got to share with you this story that was in the New York Times today. It's set in Vancouver. Have you ever been to Vancouver? It is a beaut. I went there once in the dead of night and left it the same night. It was awful. I went for a dinner and then repaired back across the border to wherever I was in Washington State. It was raining. It was an awful night. And I could see this city was beyond belief gorgeous. I mean, even it was in no position to show itself. I couldn't believe how beautiful it was. Wondrous. And I ended up in someone's home that was hanging over. It was way up on a hill or I don't know, and it was looking over the huge, there's water. Water and down on the city. And they had a lovely home. But they were complaining. This has to be 15, 20 years ago. Easily 20 years ago. They were complaining about how the price of homes in Vancouver was mushrooming at such a rate that nobody could afford a house anymore. And that what was doing this was an influx of rich Chinese. So China was starting to get its, economy going, was creating a whole bunch of gazillionaires, even then. And because it, at the time, was extremely, uncomfortable to look too rich in that country, they were buying up property close by, just a hop, skip, and a jump across the Pacific Ocean to Vancouver, and they were buying things at astronomical prices. Anyway, cut to the chase, the New York Times tells me today that close to 20% of the population of Vancouver now is Chinese. And these are rich, super rich Chinese. And the housing crisis is only worsened. In fact, it's the most expensive city to live in Canada, and one of the more expensive cities in the world. So there is an article in the Times today about the children. We're talking teenagers into early 20s of these Chinese billionaires. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Okay, let me try. For one thing, I do know that Chinese people are buying houses all over America so that they can send their children over here, even as they stay in China. So their children go to some of the better public schools When my sister just sold her house, when she moved from St. Louis, she sold it to a Chinese guy who flew in just to see it, signed it, and all he wanted was for his children to go to that school system. Same thing. So a lot of people now are selling their homes to these Chinese people with so much money they don't know what to do with it. And because right now the Communist Party there is on an anti-corruption campaign, and a lot of rich people have, gotten caught up in the net. So Canada is like the number one destination for China's 1%. And their kids are now, essentially living in Canada and in Vancouver. Listen to the ostentation and the wealth. It's beyond belief. One of the things all these kids have is a really nice car. There are stories in here of a kid when he turned 16, his father got him a $650,000 car. How can you even have a $650,000 car? And then the kid complained, I can't really put anything in it. It was like a car that was just supposed to be ogled. Luxury car dealerships have just sprouted all over the place. They hire Chinese speakers because they need to sell to the Chinese. All the Chinese girls have Lamborghinis. It's just a rite of passage. And the men like to lease supercars for like a few months and then trade in for another supercar. The supercars, you can't even believe, going for, again, hundreds of thousands of dollars. However, I have a quote here from a young girl, Diana Wang, who is a University of British Columbia student, and she says this: supercars, that's a poor investment because the value decreases over time. Here's what she says. Better to spend $500,000 on 2 expensive watches or some diamonds, this 23-year-old said. And she went on to say, like, I have 30 Chanel handbags, and I have this $200,000 diamond-encrusted watch that is worth more than his BMW. Now, turns out that particular genius is a star on an online reality show called Ultra Rich Asian Girls of Vancouver. Oh, God. And, yeah. Now, Ms. Wang normally drives her parents' Ferrari or their Mercedes when she visits them in Shanghai, but in Canada, her parents said, we are putting you on a strict car budget, Missy. And they only gave her $150,000 to get a car. It was tough. It was tough on her. She got a Audi RS5 for only $115,000. She's a little embarrassed to be out and about in it, but there you go. And somebody suggested to her 4 years ago that she had no idea what her money was doing to her and her sense of what was real in the world. And so someone dared her to live on the street for a weekend. And so she did. And here's what happened. To learn the value of money after her friends criticized her spending habits, Ms. Wang spent 3 days on the streets, pretending to be homeless. She left her mansion with no phone, no ID, no wallet, wearing only her Victoria's Secret pajamas and $1,000 Chanel shoes. And she learned her lesson, right? She said, before that, I never looked at a price tag. But now I do. Yeah, she looks and then she buys. God! Well, I'm very happy for her. What a messed up human being she's going to be. She already is. Okay, Noreen writes about flukes. Lynn, I had my first daughter in April of 1967 at St. Clair Hospital. In my room, there were 3 other women who had also just given birth. 2 years later, in May of 1969, I had my second daughter, again at St. Clair Hospital. And lo and behold, I roomed once again with one of those same women. So you guys were just on the same kind of, I don't know, that's cool. That's cool. You were on the same schedule. Well, what is this weird thing? And no one ever explained it to me. That, and we learned it first when you went away to college and you were rooming with somebody, another woman. That women living together, it takes a few months, but you get to the point where your periods coincide, right? Celine, you know that too. It's happened to you. It's happened to me. What the hell is that about? What is that about? I don't know. I mean, what is it about? Women, you can come in, hi, my name is, I'll be your roommate, and your periods are totally not at the same time, and within a few months, well, it has to be something physical, right? I mean, do we secrete hormones that, affect each other where you end up... What the hell is that? Has anybody ever figured that out? I don't know. And a whole bunch of women living together. You'll see this convergence. It's weird. All right, Ray. Ray just wrote this. This will not make your day. Lynn, I certainly hope the new city paper owners will invest in an app that works regularly. We can try. By the way, I have, met with the owner, and he's desirous of the show continuing. And so, no change as far as I know at this point here. I mean, if there's changes, it's probably going to happen more at the paper level than at my level. But we are not expecting any changes. All right. Jeez, excuse me. I think that's it. I think I'm done. 4 minutes? 3 minutes? But I don't have anything left to say. Anybody going to any of the rallies? Anybody going to a counter rally or the rally? I'd sort of like to go to the gun nut rally. I mean, just to stare at them. I don't know. Boy, I bet the local news operations are... They don't know where to go first today and how to get there. So, oh gosh. I just want to say I wanted to... there were 2 things I read today. I'm thinking that how language changes. And this term going forward, which I read all the time now. Well, I think going forward will blah, 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 blah. And I swear that was not a phrase 20 years ago. Nobody said going forward. Where'd it come from? What would you say instead of going forward? In the future. What's wrong with in the future? What's wrong with going forward? Yes, nothing, but here's another one. And this is, really, this is upsetting. It's over. There's a little word that we need to have. We need to have a an obituary for and inter it with the respect that is its due. 3-letter word. Nobody uses it anymore, and they use another word incorrectly in its stead. The word I'm talking about is few. F-E-W. You don't hear it used. You hear reporters always saying there's less this when they mean fewer. That you cannot. Less and few are not the same. I'm getting a headache. It's a lost cause. I mean, few is gone. In another 50 years, no one will even know what that weird. It'll be like you're reading Middle English. Few? What is that? Few? So in that line, the express line in a store, 12 items or fewer is correct. But I don't think they say that. A moment of silence, please. For few. Perfectly good little word. Been around for a long time, doing its job. And then, just like we did to the dodo bird and we're doing to the polar bears and everybody else, we killed it. Killed it through our ignorance. Every time you hear somebody say less, try to, in your head, put the word few in there. It doesn't always work, because sometimes less is correct. But nowhere near as much as all the people using it think it is. And because language is a living thing, the guys who are using it incorrectly will triumph in the end. And it will be considered, yes, this is usage, this is how it works, and another perfectly good word bites the dust. R.I.P. F-E-W. Goodbye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.